sex is not about fun.
Well, that unpopular opinion and others like it could become law. Welcome to part 2 of our series, Project 2025, How Democracy Dies, where I break down what Trump 2.0 could mean for America. And make sure you follow along because ending recreational sex is just one of many batshit ideas found in Project 2025, crafted by the Heritage Foundation. So we thought it important to answer the question,
Who the f*** are you?
from same-sex marriage to climate denial to immigration, they believe everything your grandpa does about America.
Took our job.
Including the idea that Americans need Jesus.
Christianity has an essential role to play in forming citizens and guiding the nation,
whether they like it or not. More on Christian nationalism in part 3. Simply put, Heritage turns ideology into policy, and they are scarily good at it. They've worked with every Republican administration since Reagan, who adopted 2/3 of their policies, making him, quote, one of the best friends the Heritage Foundation ever had. In the past year, Heritage members have provided briefings to political candidates and appeared on TV and radio over 5,000 times. And you thought Taylor Swift was overexposed. And they've been recruiting an army of ideologues for a government takeover if Trump wins. Trump's pinky. Heritage is the brain.
One is a genius, the other's insane.
Not enough people know what Project 2025 is, which is terrifying because it's going to be affecting everyone.
The Project 2025 plan is not a game.
I said in the previous video that I was very surprised that a lot of Americans didn't actually know what the policies within Project 2025 actually entailed. But now I'm starting to think that that was actually made up to be on purpose. So I'm going to explain everything in the simplest terms with no more than one sentence answers. Because I cannot stress this enough. You will need to know this if this is going to be your reality. Hey, number one, the climate crisis. That doesn't exist anymore. I'm going to be referencing this image because I know a lot of people are visual learners. Pause to read. So as you can see, Project 2025 aims to dismantle environmental regulations, which can lead to the increase of unchecked pollution, accelerating climate change and the climate crisis. None of this should be surprising considering Donald Trump has literally said in the past that he believes climate change is a hoax. This is to directly contrast Biden, who has invested over $50 billion into tackling the climate crisis. I am not a Biden fan, do not get me wrong, but I'm just going to put the facts here, okay? This is a screenshot from Homeland Security. Number 2, corporate interests are the only things that are going to matter from here on out. Pause to read. Again, none of this should be surprising because Trump is a businessman. This isn't even mentioning that Project 2025 aims to cut social welfare programs and cut the funding of that also. Another big bad one that people don't realize, which is essential in learning international political economics, is that Project 2025 aims to increase executive power. This literally means centralizing the political power within government and reducing its size. It means less voices, less representation of the actual people that they're supposed to be serving, and less checks and balances, which can result in most cases in the abuse of power. Typically in a democracy, you want a well-rounded government that isn't going to be an echo chamber for certain ideals and are only going to echo the certain ideals of the select few. Makes sense as to why corporate interests are going to be a main priority. And this is typically how authoritarian governments are formed. Oh wait, didn't Trump literally vow to become a dictator for a day if he gets re-elected? So none of this should really be surprising. Next is the slashing of certain departments. A good example of that is going to be the Department of Education. This will have these results. There's also going to be a massive backpedaling of civil rights and voting protections. That's baffling to me because America's supposed to be the heart of a democratic society, and then look what Project 2025 is aiming to do. We also have the gutting of the Homeland Security and Trump loyalists to fill government positions. And I really want you guys to focus on this point right here. I want to remind you guys that this is supposed to be a democratic society, and the centralization of power in this way, the concentration of power in this way, only historically speaking have resulted in authoritarian regimes and governments. And I don't even know what the fuck this is. And a reminder that they're going to be doing all of this alongside the things that I mentioned in the previous video, aka backpedaling on reproductive rights, backpedaling on LGBTQIA rights. Everything that we know about democracy in America, at least, is going to change if this is passed. You cannot tell me otherwise. It's not fear-mongering. It is literal empirical proof that people are literally understanding. Somehow it's only coming this late. You need to wake up, America. Coming from a Brit, I know.
Half of Project 2025 is complete. Out of the 317 goals, 179 have already been pushed through across 34 government agencies. And here's what that means for you. They've already rolled back LGBTQIA rights, 69% complete. Civil rights protections, 73% rolled back. Diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, 75% dismantled. And they are targeting your health care, your freedoms, and even your right to exist safely in this country. Student loan forgiveness, definitely gone. Medicaid expansion, gutted. Renewable energy, limited. Marine life protections, stripped away. ICE detention beds, expanded by tens of thousands. And they even raised asylum fees, literally putting a price tag on desperation. Forget they're replacing contraception with so-called fertility awareness methods. Climate protections torn apart, workers' rights rolled back, public health safeguards eliminated. This isn't just politics. This is your wallet, your job, your body, your future. And the scariest part? They're only at 47%. The other half is still coming. They're betting you're not going to notice. They're betting you are going to scroll past. But silence is how they win. Call your representatives. Use the People's March toolkit. I linked it. And share this video, because if almost half of Project 2025 feels this devastating, we cannot let them finish the rest.
Hey, Anthony.
Yeah.
People want to know what's left in Project 2025.
So, unfortunately, that's not an easy answer. Project 2025 is this huge compilation of goals that was put together for the Trump administration by the Heritage Foundation, which is a Republican think tank. Covering what has or has not been completed is beyond the scope of a single video. What is probably more useful is to give everybody a resource that they can use to find that information themselves. And the resource that I use is a community-driven website called project2025.observer. And what this website does is it lists all the goals. So if I pull it up on my phone, I can see that there are 313 goals total for Project 2025. 100 of them are complete, 65 are in progress, and the rest haven't been started yet. If I look through the not started goals, I can see a number of different things, and I can even sort them by the different parts of the government that they relate to. So, for example, if I look at the Department of Defense, I can see that one of the not started goals is to reduce the U.S. force posture in Europe, or to say it more simply, to basically pull some of our troops and potentially our bases out of European countries. If I sort by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, I can see that a goal there is to impose time limits on how long low-income people can receive Medicaid in their lifetime. It's very well sourced. All of the individual topics listed on the website have links to the original text in the Project 2025 manual, as well as credible sources for any of the topics that are listed or in progress or completed. It's unfortunately a very sobering view of what's going on in the Trump administration, but it does give a lot of clarity to what's happening in our country. And it's a great resource for anybody that wants to stay informed.
Hello everyone, it's Anthony. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and it's amazing having you all here. I just popped up to say hi. How are you doing? Let's continue watching this video, and I will be making our conclusions as the video on goes. So I just popped up to say I really appreciate you for giving me the voice by watching these videos to improve my reach. So let's continue watching, and don't forget to comment about this Project 2025 and how it's affecting our lives, our country, and the future generation. So let's continue watching.
People need to realize that Trump supporters do not care if Trump lies to them. They do not care. And the Project 2025 thing is a great example where Trump swore up and down that he didn't even know what Project 2025 was, and then here he is admitting that he is following that playbook. Obviously, we all knew that, but a lot of Trump supporters told us that we were being dramatic and that liberals and the left were fear-mongering and stuff like that. But now that it's actually happening, they'll look you dead in the eye and say, oh, I actually agree with that. They'll do that with abortion rights, gay rights, trans rights, etc. They'll just keep doing that. They'll tell you that, oh, that would never happen. But then when it does happen, they'll look you in the eye and say, well, I actually support that. It'll happen over and over and over again. But this is just a reminder that this is one of many examples that proof that they do not care that Trump lies to them. They don't care. That's perfectly fine with them, and that is how cults work.
I'm gonna let an incel explain Project 2025 to y'all. We have a bunch of incels in the White House now, and this is how they think. So let me just make it very clear. This is the reason that Project 2025 is happening. Let's read it together. This was posted in the Natalism subreddit by an incel. And he says that birth rate can never be fixed. It is just female nature. The birth rate can never be fixed without rolling back women's rights. No, I'm not suggesting this, just playing devil's advocate. I could do an hour-long dissertation on this first sentence just to begin with, but I won't. Women have always married sideways and up in terms of social status. Also not true, but that's okay. When women can work and make their own money, they will want a man who makes the same or more. This is just nature. Money doesn't exist in nature, sir, but that's okay. A lot of men are simply not going to make the standard of today. True. You need to know that incels realize this. A lot of incels realize they're not going to make the cut to mate with a woman and to create for themselves a quote-unquote legacy. And they're really mad about it because they feel entitled to it. You know where there is a high birth rate? Poor women. Poor women have a lot of men who will make the cut. That's why poor people have more babies. They're not picky. They're not thinking about going to college and then finding a husband who makes as much as them. They don't care about all of that. They're fine being poor. Women in the past couldn't work, or the most she could aspire to is being a secretary. They needed a man to survive. Today they can put off marriage and kids and even settle when they're 30 plus or never settle. Really saying the quiet part out loud, right? Why would she settle at 21 and have 4 babies with some loser when she can get a career and find a winner at 30 who makes the same as her? All this talk about doing this and that to fix the birth rate is ridiculous. You will never convince a woman who has innate talent to not have a career and then find a husband who also has a career. So ladies, just so y'all know, this is the game plan. This is Project 2025. Right? They want to trap you with these loser men's babies. And they know, these men themselves know that they are losers. They know that they are not making the cut otherwise. They know that they're not making the cut unless women are in dire economic poverty conditions. That is the only time they're going to be able to trap and saddle a woman with 4 children, even though they're a loser, a poor, broke loser. And they're saying the quiet part out loud. They're saying that if women could go their own way, they would, right? All this red pill talk about it's men that go their own way. Women are always trying to trap us. What is this then? Men know damn well that they're the ones that need to trap women. And that's why we have Project 2025 coming down the pike. Because a lot of these capitalist, loser, incel men, the only reason that any women pay attention to them is because they have money. Well, in order to keep making money, guess what they need? They need there to be more people. They need women to be popping out 4 kids or more. So these rich incels have come up with a plan, and it basically boils down to this. The incel thinking, this type of incel thinking is the highest level of thinking that a lot of men are even capable of. They're not going to go above this. They're not going to be asking the real questions. They're just going to look at something and then think, how do I force it? How do I conquer it? How do I make it do what I want it to do? And they don't view us as people. They're viewing us as baby-making machines. Like, you got to put the machine in a different gear. You got to put it into the poverty gear, right? Otherwise, it's not going to want to pop out babies. You got to put the machine in a state of poverty. And then the machine won't be picky. This is exactly why they're rolling back our rights. Like I'm telling y'all, these men sat down and they said, we need the worker bees, we need the consumers, we need the warehouse employees, we need people's children so we can send them to war. Otherwise, this whole system falls apart without women, and without women being forced to be indiscriminate, or without women being forced into poverty conditions, with a lack of sex education, with a lack of knowledge of their own rights, lacking knowledge of their own power. That is the only way that women are going to continue doing what men want them to do. They're not going to know any better. And that's why they need their rights rolled back, because if women were given the same levels of freedom as men, a lot of women would simply opt out of dating men, marrying men, having kids with men. They would want to have the same kind of freedom as a man, to have and pursue a career, to make a lot of money in their lifetime, to settle down when they're 30 or older, that's what women would choose. As most men do not make a good mating partner. They don't make a good husband, father, partner, any of those things. So when women become educated and when they get a taste of that freedom that only men have historically had access to, women start to realize why men have always been so insistent on trapping them with marriage and children and poverty, and then making all of that seem like a gift that the man gave you. Oh, he gave me babies. Oh, he lets me stay home and take care of the kids. Oh, he provides for us. Ma'am, he has figured out that that is in fact the only way to trap a woman and have her doing his bidding, supporting his career, supporting all of his moves, raising his children, leaving him a legacy, because mind you, they're going to have his last name. So men have just figured out how to skin us alive, right? Now that we've caught on to the fact that that's wrong and we don't want to be skinned alive anymore, they're like, see, we need to get you back into a time when you couldn't escape being skinned alive. Couldn't escape being used as a baby making machine, when you had to, when you would believe any lie that somebody would tell you because you are young, naive, living in poverty, you're uneducated, and you'll believe anything that anybody tells you. That's why they like gullible, uneducated women, the same reason that Trump likes uneducated people, because they don't ask too many questions, they just do as they're told. This is why Project 2025 is really happening. Like, it's definitely sinister, it's just not complicated. It's just not complicated. It's because the only way that men know how to do things is by force. And they don't actually want to ask themselves the real questions or admit to themselves they're hindering their own progress, their own evolution. They're hindering the human race in general by oppressing half or more of it. And all they care about is figuring out how to get what they want by force. So ladies, please stay safe out there. Protect your womb. Godspeed.
You want maybe one of the most unpopular opinions of all, and maybe this makes me the asshole, but if I'm the asshole, then so be it, because I think people need to consider this. Adriana Smith, the woman being kept alive after they discovered she was pregnant at 9 weeks, 9 whole weeks, a clump of cells. They're keeping her alive, her corpse specifically alive, you know, the thing that's actively trying to decompose because of that fetus. And they want to be able to bring that baby into the world. I hope that it fails. And I know that makes me the asshole probably, but here's why I need it to fail. Because if it is successful, and if this child comes out, I guess, fairly typical without any issue, they've then discovered that women don't even actually have to be alive in the sense that they have brain activity for them to utilize us as incubators. Let me say that again. If this is successful, they will learn that we don't have to be alive outside of a machine pumping some form of nutrients and oxygen into our dead corpses to bring additional white, I mean any color, babies into the world. That should literally scare the shit out of anyone.
So we are fighting Iran, and we still want to adopt their systems. Literally, Republican Party wants to give us an Ayatollah Khomeini, and maybe the ICE will become a morality police. So comment your thoughts, what you think about all these issues. You know, we'll be having a morality force in the United States as time goes, because what the government is focused on is exerting control. And before Trump came to power, he said that he wants a small government, a government that doesn't have control over everything. And literally, that's what he is doing, controlling everything. What we talk about, what we read about.
There were times where I thought I would never be saying this, but the Project 2025 index is done. If you've been following along, I have been indexing all of Project 2025, all 890 pages, so we can track their objectives against what the Trump administration is doing. The index is complete. You can get there by going right up here. When you open that link, it will take you to this, and just click on this one. Now, I want to show you what it will look like, and so what you can expect. Please keep in mind, I still have to add in the tracking aspect of this. So in terms of everything Trump has already done, that aligns with Project 2025. In this sheet as well, I'm going to do my best just to track everything the administration is doing, but let me show you. When you open the link, the first thing you're going to see is the graphs page. I'm going to be adding more graphs, but I wanted to get up some of the basic ones. So this one is count of all of the objectives by their affected area. And as you can see, there are a lot of affected areas. Some have more than one. Actioned is currently empty. This chart will populate once I start putting in the tracking of it, which I'm going to try and do today. I also have this chart by type. I might rename it, but are they trying to repeal, change what's going on, block something, deregulate, eliminate, implement, reform, etc. And then currently the last chart I have is count by author because people really wanted to see who exactly was involved in this. Up in the top left corner, right under the title, you will see the 3 different pages. So this is the full index. Like I said, there is going to be this bar across the top on all of the pages, so you can see the last time it was updated. But this is the full index of Project 2025 and all of the objectives. In here, I have the page number in Project 2025. Actually, I just remembered, I want to put a link to the document so you can go view if you want, but imagine that'll be here, what the objectives are, who the author was, again, the type, reform, continuation, and because they are trying to continue a lot of things that are ongoing, like support for Israel, but I wanted to track that as well. Affected areas, and then this is where I'll be filling in the action and tracking information. What was the action taken? What was it? What was the date? Were challenges? I'm going to try and fill this out later. But if you want to see everything that's in Project 2025, you can find that here. And I'm sharing this to web, so this is like if you Control F or Command F and you search for a keyword, it'll show you the different examples and where that's mentioned. The last tab up at the top is where I'm also going to be keeping the ongoing list of all of the administration action tracking, as well as updating this one regularly as it relates to Project 2025, but that is also just going to be a full overview. I'll be making videos as I make updates to this tracker, and I'm also about to publish this on my Substack, so if you're not subscribed there, you can also find it where you can find the link to this tracker. But like I said, I'll be posting videos here as well, as long as we have this app, so you can stay up to date with what's going on. And I'm going to start putting out just weekly videos on everything the administration has done, how it relates to this, and how it maybe doesn't relate to this. But that is the update for February 5th as of right now. I will keep you guys posted as I make the tracking updates. But thank you so much to everyone who has supported this project, and thank you to the volunteers who helped me get through some of the last bits of indexing. It was so incredibly helpful.
Quick update on Project 2025. It's not good. One of the authors said recently it is going better than his wildest dreams, which is both super weird and very unsettling. Project 2025 was a governing document, and they are using it to govern now. In fact, because of this tracker, we know that they are about 42% of the way there. So 8 things written in Project 2025 that have already happened. Number 1, they hired in senior positions the authors of Project 2025. They are strategically placed throughout the administration, from the Federal Communications Commission to the Office of Management and Budget. Number 2, reproductive freedom. There's a ton in Project 2025 that will upend reproductive freedom, including the requests for an executive order banning any taxpayer dollars for reproductive health care, and Trump has done that already. Number 3, shutting down the Department of Education. Let's just read from Project 2025. The Federal Department of Education should be eliminated. And that's literally what Trump is doing. He ordered for the dismantling of the Department of Education, and they are in the process of doing just that. Number 4, child care and Head Start. Project 2025 calls for the elimination of Head Start, which provides early childhood education for millions and millions of children. What was one of the first things that Trump and Musk did after Inauguration Day? They froze hundreds of billions of dollars, including Head Start money. Even as we record this, there are programs all over the country that can't access all of their money. Number 5, Social Security. In Project 2025 is a commitment to raise the retirement age of Social Security. There's also language in there to cut benefits and to privatize the program altogether. Congressional Republicans are working on a budget right now that will pursue those cuts. They're closing down field offices. They're getting rid of thousands of staff members. They want to make it so hard for seniors to call that they just give up, or the checks just don't go out. Number 6, Medicaid. Project 2025 calls for them to strip away coverage from 90 million people, 38,000 here in Southwest Ohio. The budget that congressional Republicans passed requires them to cut almost $1 trillion in Medicaid. That's cuts to states, doctors, long-term care facilities, children's hospitals. Hospitals will close, doctors' offices will close, children and families will lose their coverage, and some of them will die. Number 7, SNAP. This is the federal program that provides healthy food for tens of millions of Americans. Project 2025 calls for cuts in SNAP, and so does the Republican budget. In fact, the latest Republican budget calls for an over $200 billion cut in food assistance for tens of millions of Americans. Number 8, prescription drugs. Project 2025 calls for the end of us negotiating lower prescription drug prices for seniors. One of Trump's first executive orders, doing just that. Prescription drug prices are going to go up for millions and millions of seniors. They are nearly halfway through Project 2025. Let's go back to one of the authors. Said, quote, Trump is seizing every minute of every hour. Doing what? Implementing Project 2025. The only way to stop this is for a few congressional Republicans to join us, and then we will end this. Keep advocating, keep making noise, keep reaching out, keep calling, keep doing all of the work you're doing.
If you haven't read Project 2025 yet, I encourage you to read it, because on page 555, do you know what it says? It says, militarize the troops, militarize the National Guard against the states and the U.S. citizens. That's what it says. Donald Trump is following Project 2025 to the T. Every single thing is in there that he is currently doing.
Thank you for watching my video to the end. It's amazing having you here. And let me tell you a secret. What no government has ever been able to do in the whole world since time immemorial is how me and you think. No government can control that. No government can control our creativity. And whenever you see government going at the media, suing these media companies, it's very bad. It's an attack on the fifth estate. But now we have independent journalists all over the place, giving you live information of what is going on in our country. Whatever these media corporations are afraid to talk about, they have been substituted by independent journalists. Now let me tell you about Project 2025. Defund education. When you defund education, you increase the number of Americans who are future MAGA Americans. You get a population of uneducated people who don't question the government actions, who don't question the government policies, who follows leaders blindly. Now let's talk about controlling the media. They bought TikTok, one of the most influential social media sites in the United States, controlling the narrative. They have infiltrated our churches. Literally, one of the issues that has made the Latino Americans start turning Republicans at a higher rate is because MAGA has infiltrated our churches. And that's where Democrats are failing. We are not recruiting. MAGA is recruiting at a rapid pace. So before we catch up, the train will have left. So we gave Trump another 4 years to organize America in such a way that they replace our constitution with Project 2025. Our constitution is literally being replaced. Let me tell you how. If we allow a government entity to adopt a book or some policies written by individual billionaires who literally gathered out of nowhere and written a book, a playbook, and government decided to adopt it, what makes you think that they won't write a new constitution and the government will adopt it? Why? Because now Project 2025 is being implemented without us knowing, step by step. And you won't know until maybe in the next 5 years, 4 years, who knows? Because they have placed people in power who they trust, who are there to stay. They have Supreme Court rulings which gives Trump ultimate powers or the supreme powers or unchecked powers, name them. So it's really scary the times we are living in the United States at the moment. So what I usually say, stay focused, stay alert, watch blue, listen blue, talk blue, vote blue, and until the next video, thank you for your attention to this matter.